Madam Clerk, could you
Good
please,
morning.
call the roll?
Yes, Alderwoman Davis.
Present.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
Alderwoman Howard.
Present.
Alderwoman Murphy. Alderman Boyd. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Muhammad.
Present.
Chairman Conway.
Present.
5 present, you have a quorum.
All right. I'm gonna make a motion that we take up the minimum wage compliance section. Bill first.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and second that we take up the minimum wage compliance section first. Call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis.
Yes.
Alderman Moore. Alderman Vaccaro.
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard.
Aye.
Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderman Muhammad.
Aye.
Chairman Conway.
Aye.
5 aye votes.
All right, we have the city councilor's office here. Go ahead and present your finalized version of your regulations. Just quickly go over the changes from the last time you were in, either of you.
So at the request of Alderman Davis, I went ahead and attached the notifications and created an appendix which have Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2, which are the poster notice as well as the paycheck notice. And in addition to that, I think I made some indentions that related to the outline, which really is just more of a formatting issue, wasn't related to any substance. So those are the only changes that were made.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Alderwoman Davis.
I'll pass for a moment.
Alderman Vaccaro.
I have no questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
No. No question.
Alderman Muhammad.
Have a no, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, I got a fan blowing in my ear.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. I would move that we adopt the minimum wage
Second.
rules. It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the minimum wage rules. There's a request for previous roll. Is there any objection? Seeing no objection, we've adopted those rules.
Thank you.
Alderman Coatar. Good morning, Alderman. You're recognized on, Board Bill number 44.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I would remind the chairman that as part of Board Bill 44, it is amending a SID. This is also a public hearing that was properly noticed up. I don't know if anyone's here to provide public testimony, but would you mind inquiring of the crowd?
I will when you're finished presenting.
Okay. All right. So Board Bill 44 is simply part of the deal we passed last session for renovations to the Scottrade Center across the street. As many of you probably remember, we passed a number of, or a board bill. Sorry. Mr. Zimmerman from the Blues there, his phone's ringing. We passed a board bill to expend, to issue some bonds to help pay for improvements to the Scottrade Center, which is a city-owned facility across the road. As part of that financing agreement, the agreement contemplated instituting a 1% community improvement district sales tax on the site. There's already a SID in place at the location that there's a special assessment that helps pay down the debt on the Peabody Opera House. There would now be a special assessment and adding this SID on top. So what we're here to do today is simply amend the SID to allow for a 1% sales tax, which was contemplated in the financing agreement. The SID will generate approximately, we can borrow against it, it'll generate approximately $16.2 million in LCRA bonds. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Alderwoman Davis.
No questions.
Alderman Vaccaro.
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Muhammad.
No questions, sir.
All right. Is there any members of the public wishing to testify today? Okay, I don't see.
I'll make a motion, we pass this out with a due pass Board Bill 44 with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved in second that we
Previous
pass
roll.
out Board Bill number 44 with a due pass recommendation. There's been a request for previous roll. Seeing no objection, Board Bill number 44 comes out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank you. Mr. Garavaglia, I assume you're here on Board Bill number 3.
I am, Mr. Chairman. I have some handouts for you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This before you today for consideration is Board Bill number 3. It is tantamount to some housekeeping for the City Foundry project, which has been before you. It's the renovation of the old Moog Automotive plant on Forest Park. This is on the back side, on the Market Street side, just north of Interstate 64. As you can see, from what I've handed out today, it is I guess, tantamount to a postage stamp. It's 19 feet by 20 feet, but it's more of a housekeeping thing, as I said. How the city came to own that little section, as you can see from the picture that I got from Google Maps, it is a portion of that parcel that you see there. And I would hope for your favorable consideration.
You said it was 19 by 20?
Yes, sir. And we've used the LRA pricing for that ward in that neighborhood.
All right. Alderwoman Davis, any questions?
No questions.
Alderman Vaccaro.
No questions.
Alderwoman Howard.
No questions.
Alderman Muhammad.
No, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to pass Board Bill 3 out with the due pass recommendation. Previous roll.
It's been moved and seconded that we pass Board Bill number 3 out of committee with a due pass recommendation. There's been a request for previous roll. Seeing no objection, Board Bill number 3 passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
I haven't seen that before.
Next, we have Board Bill number 55, and Mr. Nathan, from Metro, here with us today. And what I would ask you to do is first introduce everybody that's with you and what their title is.
I will.
And then you can go ahead and make your presentation. You can go ahead and present the financial information for all 3 bills at one time.
That'd be great. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning. I'd like to introduce members of the A-team. Mark Vago is our controller, Bi-State. Tracy Beidelman is Director of Program Development and Grants. Larry Jackson is our Executive Vice President of Administration. Kathy Cleavorn is our CFO, Vice President of Administration. Ken Franklin is our Vice President of Government Relations and Policy Initiatives. And the man who needs no introduction is the Executive Director of Metro Transit in St. Louis. Forrest runs our entire transit operation. That's Ray Frisch.
All right. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. You have in front of you a packet that we put together. I think the thing that's most important for me to tell you is I am not going to go through it page by page and take up all your time. You're being very efficient this morning. I want to keep it to program. I'll direct your attention to certain pages that are of really prime importance for our discussion this morning. The first few pages talk about some of the great things that we have going on. For those of you who may be new to this process and new in hearing about our company, we're very proud of our records. Our Metro Transit Division leads the country in efficiency and reliability. Awards up and down. We're always glad to talk about it, as everybody is, but we're very proud of what our Metro Transit team is accomplishing. On page 9 of the handout is the service area facts for the Missouri side of the river. We provide Metro Transit in St. Louis County, the city of St. Louis, and in St. Clair County, Illinois. You got it?
We're getting there.
I'm just, yeah.
What page are you on, John?
Page 9.
Okay,
Page 9 in the booklet
okay.
is a snapshot on page 9 of what we do in Missouri, which is 60 Metro bus routes. 30 are in the St. Louis County only, 12 are in the city and the county, 5 are express routes, 13 are solely routes that are in the city. You also see a summary of the miles that we provide by all 3 modes in the 2 jurisdictions. We also remind people that We have about a little over 5,000 active bus stops and over 450 shelters throughout the region. We also have 7 Metro Transit centers, 37 Metrolink stations throughout the system, 2 Metrolink and 3 Metrobus facilities. Moving ahead a little bit, as you go through pages, and we leave this as a resource for you every year, so we won't go through it all. But pages 15 through about 28 are designed to answer the questions that we have every year about how do we compare to our peer groups across the country. We start out with the light rail comparison. As you can see, no matter how you slice it or dice it or really what measure you come up with, here in St. Louis, our Metro Transit operation does exceedingly well when not only just in the abstract, but also when compared to its peers and its peer group throughout the country, something we are very, very proud of. Beginning on page 29, we start talking about some things about how we're enhancing and expanding the system. It is important to note, I will tell you on page 29, the first bullet point, it might not seem like much when you sit in a meeting, unless you're in this industry, but that first bullet point is a 1,000,000-mile bus. Excellence in maintenance and reliability. That is one of the rarest things that can occur in the transit industry, is to operate a bus that lasts for 1,000,000 miles, particularly in an urban environment. It's only been done once before, I think, which was in Hawaii, where the weather is the same every day. Nobody's done it in an environment like ours where the temperature swings 100 degrees in the course of a year. So something we're very, very proud of. It's another measurement and testament to our maintenance and facility program. Moving ahead, let's go to page 33. This is kind of the guts of what you're actually paying for and what we actually provide. You pay us to put service on the street. The next few pages tell you exactly what you're paying for. Starting on page 33, it's Missouri service miles by mode. You'll see the 2 columns on the right are the city of St. Louis. The 2 columns on the left are St. Louis County. So as you look at page 33, you'll see that we're providing about 6.2 million miles of Metro bus service in the city, about 780,000 miles of Metrolink, 1.4 million miles of Colorado, which is our paratransit for the elderly and the disabled, for a total miles in the city of about 8.4 million miles of service that we intend to provide over the ensuing fiscal year that begins July 1. How it breaks out in terms of hours is page 34, so we have miles and we have hours. With regard to Metro Bus, it's about 566,000 hours of bus. Go all the way down to the bottom, we're providing about 685,000 hours of service, of transit service in the city of St. Louis. The operating cost for the modes is set forth on page 35. The Metro Bus cost is about $61.2 million. The Metrolink is about $25 million. The Colorado is right around $7 million for a total annualized cost of about $93.3 million. Then what we do is we credit against each jurisdiction the fare box that we get in each of those jurisdictions. So you see that on page 36. And basically we credit the fare where it's actually collected. So you'll see in the city we collect about $14 million from the bus, $6.8 from the Metrolink, about $317,000 for a total fare box recovery in the city of about $21.2 million. The next part kind of gets to some of the things that we're doing and how we're funded. We have several pie charts on the sources of our funds and where it comes from. I won't go through them in detail. I know we're under a time constraint this morning. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about it, or a member of my team will. And then we get to page 45, which talks about, again, our world-class vehicle maintenance program, which is extremely important because of the millions of dollars we save every year in how we do maintenance. Now, we are very proud to say that last summer, on the Federal Register for July the 26th, the Department of Transportation specifically wrote about us in the Federal Register saying that we are a case study on how to manage transit assets in the United States. We are not only an industry leader in terms of efficiency and reliability, we kind of exist in a world that's all by ourselves because we're so far ahead of the industry. That produces millions of dollars in savings every year. As you'll see in the middle of page 45, we can document no less than $7 million in savings in the capital budget because of what we do. When you extrapolate it out, truthfully, our guys will tell you, even though it's hard to document, but if you extrapolate it out, it's well over $10 million a year in savings just by the way we manage the system. Let's go to page 49, because I was told to get this done in 10 minutes, and I aim to at Metro, we like to stay on time, so that's what we're going to do. On page 49, the revenue and expense assumptions going into the budget for the ensuing year. Passenger revenue reflects a decrease of $5.6 million. Ridership is down over the last couple of years. Before that, back in about 2013, we were leading the country in ridership growth in terms of percentage of ridership. We're having some ridership issues. That's a combination of reasons for that. Low gas prices, a whole lot of things. It's a big difference for us as it is for the city when the Cardinals make the playoffs. The Rams left town, all kinds of things. Diesel, fuel prices are very low. Beginning on page 50, we've got pie charts, again, about the revenue and where it comes from. You'll see that the city of St. Louis is about $10.7 million. I'm sorry, 10.7% or roughly $36 million on the operating side. You can see the other jurisdictions and the patchwork of where we get the rest of the money to run the system. Go to page 52 real quick. One of the things we always get asked is, you know, we sit in this meeting every year, we talk about the budget, what's different from this year to last year? We're providing basically the same service throughout the city. We're not increasing service, decreasing it. We have a lot of good things going on, but page 52 basically is a reconciliation of how things are different with regard to this budget request as opposed to last year. And so the total budget expense is about $340 million. We factor in a 2.5% inflationary growth, which is the $7.7 million. We continue to do well on fuel. That's really not something we control. We pay it, we watch the market, but a savings of about $1.5 million, a reduction in interest on the long-term debt of about $1 million. We have added, as was widely reported, an additional $20 million in our budget for the ensuing year for security. That particular item is subject to negotiations and discussions with the mayor, the county executive, and the board chairman in St. Clair County. The particular request that's in front of you today does not reflect the additional $20 million. That would have to be an additional appropriation and additional discussion, but we approved it in our budget, my Board of Commissioners did, so that we at least have the authority at our level to spend what's necessary depending on what we're going to be called upon to spend to address security and modifications to the system to the extent that's going to be done. So page 52 kind of gives you the summary of that. If you go to page 54, this is where it all kind of comes together. We try to get it all on one page. You have the city and the county. So you take the operating expense, which we split up by jurisdictions. We had the debt expense, the local match requirements for capital projects. Sheltered workshop is something we always get asked about. The 1974 sales tax, which is part of your appropriation, has a requirement in it by the state that any funds appropriated by you out of the 1974 sales tax and paid to us specifically, what is it, 1%? I think 2% has to be paid by us to the sheltered workshop. So going down where you see the regional sales tax line, base appropriation, those are the appropriation requests to the city and the county to maintain service levels. What we are told to do is maintain service levels. We don't really have requests for additional service. We don't have requests to reduce service. So the question is, what does it take to maintain service throughout the jurisdictions? These pages support all that. But on page 54, it's that regional sales tax base appropriation that you'll see for $40,902,450,000. For those of you that may be new to this process, I will say, it's kind of to help you understand, we are not a taxing entity at Bi-State. So every year, we're like a big contractor. So every year, the city, separate from the county and separate from St. Clair County, we work with them to determine the levels of service they would like in their jurisdiction. We break those service down into a cost matrix on a per unit basis, and then you pay us for the service that we provide. So we're really like a contractor is about the easiest way to think about it. Moving on, I did want to point out, somehow I missed the page, we have substantial capital projects going on in the city this year and next year, and frankly over the next couple of years. and somehow I missed the page, but I will tell you what they are.
We saw it across the street.
Civic Center is under construction. We expect that to be concluded on August the 14th. We broke ground last week on the Cortex, the new Metrolink station at Cortex, which is a very important project for the city and for us. It is the first time in the history of the system that we're getting private dollars invested in Metrolink. So that is a $10.2 million federal grant. The city's not putting money into it. We're not putting money into it. The other roughly $5 million is coming from the Cortex partners, Washington U, BJC, Cortex. So it's the first time we're getting private investment into the Metrolink system, which frankly is something we're going to need to do if we're going to be expanding the system. So that's the first example of that. So we got Civic Center. We've got, we're also going to start the Union Station project. Metrolink runs under Union Station. We call it a tunnel. It's really not a tunnel. The engineers will tell you it's a really big bridge that is the parking lot for Union Station, and Metrolink runs under it. That's going to require a reconstruction and a whole lot of work through that area over the next couple of years. So those three projects, Ray, did I miss anything that we're doing in the city? We're going to be doing some station enhancements in general, but from Civic Center to Cortex to the Union Station project, those are the three major ones in the city.
We'll also be kicking off the first LRV modernization project.
Okay.
Our LRVs, the first ones are 25 years old now.
Light rail
And they
vehicles,
have
the trains.
Almost 2 million miles on them, so we've got a great useful life off of them, and to extend that life, we would need to make an investment in them.
Okay. So our request of you this morning, we've been requested to maintain service levels throughout the city of St. Louis. This packet and any additional information you'd like to have, we're always glad to provide it. But to maintain service levels would require an appropriation from the city of approximately $40,902,450. I will tell you that when you look at that page, particularly page 54, we're providing approximately $93.3 million worth of service on an appropriation from the city of approximately $41 million. I will tell you, I speak with people all over the country on transit operations. I meet with CEOs, all kinds of things. I am very proud of what our team is providing and what we're able to produce for the city, for the county, for St. Clair County, and frankly for our entire region. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that any of you have. And my team will be glad to be at your disposal as well.
Alderwoman Davis, you're first.
Here, let me just start off. On page 56, is that additional security, are the funds available, or do the different taxing authorities have to come up with that 20 million still?
The taxing authorities would have to come up with that money. What we did as a board, given all the discussions, the plan really hasn't been finalized as to how security is going to work or what enhance or what modifications to the system might be required. So what my board did was add $20 million to our budget under a security item, because we still don't know whether and to what extent we might be asked to pay for something because we can attract grant money or anything else. So we put the 20 million in, what that was based on. That money wasn't just pulled out of the air. 20 million is based on having a law enforcement person on every single train car and on every single platform, which is something else has been talked about. Just for point of reference, every day, every work day, we operate about 395 hours of Metro trains. That is 2 cars. That's about 790 hours per weekday. In addition to that, we have 37 Metro stations that are open for 20 hours, which is another 740 hours per day. So we have about 1,500 hours per day of train cars and platforms. So depending on how we work with the jurisdictions and what their priorities are and what they believe the law enforcement answer is in terms of additional people or additional technology, or changing technology, which is frankly changing rapidly in this field, we stand prepared and have the authority through our board to spend what is necessary to support the region in the entire security effort.
And you just need the money?
We do.
Okay.
Depending on what those decisions are about who is going to do what and how that plan is going to put together.
All right. Thank you. I just wanted to be clear in my mind. That's kind of what I thought it said there. Alderwoman Davis.
Good morning.
Good morning, Alderman.
This is not anything that you can remedy, but it's just an observation. I don't really have any complaints about the service, but our appearance for bus stops, although we tried to remedy that about 3 years ago. I know we didn't hold up our end of the bargain. Other things we've tried to do, but something has to happen. And I don't know what that is, and I'm not gonna talk more than another 20 seconds about it. But when there is filth and unnecessary graffiti, it makes a neighborhood or look bad and make people not want to use the service. That's not your fault. It's a whole lot of other people's fault in here, including what we didn't do as the city. I'm done.
Alderman Vaccaro.
I don't really have a question, but real quickly, don't you, if I remember right, and good chance I don't, but isn't it the city's street or refuge department supposed to be cleaning them up, and then they're getting paid back from Metro? Didn't we arrange that? If I'm
We
right,
actually, in the city, we actually pay that department to pick up the trash at the bus stops is what we do.
And they're supposed to have a crew go out and sweep up
Right.
and clean, and we did this in the past year, so I just.
Right, you appropriate money to us, we turn around and pay the,
That's what I thought.
which division is it? Who do we pay to pick up the trash?
Street department.
Street department, that's what I thought.
Streets?
They're supposed to be out in the truck, and they're supposed to be sweeping up and cleaning them up. But I was just from my own recollection.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
You're right, that's a partnership.
That's what I thought.
Alderwoman Howard.
My only question is, this 20 million, you've appropriated, included in your budget for security, and that's just manpower?
It's not just manpower, there's also money in there to have money available for studies or for additional, whatever is needed. At this
What
point,
about some turnstiles? Just so
Turnstiles,
people,
turnstiles have been discussed as an
Oh, there's
option.
3 bills.
and I don't know if that's even the technology that's
Well, these
used
aren't
now anymore, you know, I'm old
And
school.
we can have discussions
these
about
were
that
bills.
because different systems around the country are doing things different ways. One thing that's important to remember, a lot of things get said about MetroLink in the way it was constructed. One thing that's worth remembering, it's often called inappropriately an honor system. It is not an honor system. It was built as an open system, which was the least expensive way to construct it in the 80s. And it was designed on ease of access, but then corresponding rigorous fare enforcement. As you can tell from the press, we've got issues with fare enforcement. So what happens is now we have people getting on the system. We don't have the rigorous fare enforcement in certain places, and so that leads to additional issues. So now we're looking at, now that it's 2017, it's not 1987 anymore, what can we do? What physical changes to the system would be required? Part of that may be turnstiles. People say put up turnstiles. What you really need to talk about is not just turnstiles, but how to barrierize a system. Because I could put up turnstiles, but if you look, I got 47 miles of open track and multiple entry points into multiple stations. So it's not just turnstiles, it's how you would barrierize an entire system.
So, you know, my other concern is, you know, we're dropping in ridership because I would say primarily people don't feel secure on the transportation mode. And I think that we really, really need to address that.
We would certainly agree. You know, we like to say it's not our job just to move people and move people efficiency, it's our job to move people safely. Or as I like to compare it to a baseball game, you know, the Cardinals win by getting their people to arrive safe at home.
Yes.
And that's what we shoot for every day.
Well, and watch that word. But I agree, it's not just your problem, it's a city, you know, it's a regional problem that we have
And for those of you
here
that may wonder,
all
we are
need to-
prohibited from having a police department. Because people say, how come you don't have a police department like Chicago or DC or something? Our charter, we are incorporated by an act of Congress. Bi-State is an interstate compact agency. We exist by virtue of an agreement between Missouri and Illinois known as the Compact, incorporated by an act of Congress. Our charter prohibits us from employing our own peace officers. From the very beginning, MetroLink has relied on a collaboration and a cooperation with the jurisdictions we serve to
And
police
there's-
the system.
Okay. Thank you, that's all I have.
Alderman Muhammad.
Is there a comparison sale tax been enacted in St. Louis County too?
Is the what?
Is there a comparison sale tax
Yes.
been operating in St. Louis County?
Right, it's the city and the county each have 3 sales taxes from which they appropriate for our services. A 1974 tax, a 1994 tax, and then the city passed it in 97, but it didn't go into effect until 2010. When the county passed it, there was a reciprocal provision. In the city, there is still another quarter cent sales tax, which could be enacted in the city to support public transit. It has been enacted in the county, but it has not been enacted in the city. So my understanding is there's still another quarter cent that could be. But both the city and the county appropriate money out of 3 separate sales taxes for public transit service.
And I would assume that St. Clair County is the same.
St. Clair County, we deal with the St. Clair County Transit District, which is an authority set up about 1980. So we don't deal always directly with the county, but yeah, they're supported by tax revenue. The difference also in Illinois is, unlike Missouri, is Illinois, the state, funds public transit. Missouri does not. Well, I hate to say they don't. You know, our operating budget this year is $340 million. Missouri will pay us about $6.50 or something. No, it's what?
A few $100,000.
Right, a few $100,000 doesn't make much of a difference, frankly, one way or the other. So, but in Illinois, they continue to get funding from the state, which helps their position over there. But in Missouri, as a state, does not really fund public transit. So that's one thing that's really commendable, which doesn't get talked about enough, is, you know, we have a system, it's not one of the bigger systems in the country. You know, we don't provide as much service as we would like, but through tremendous local commitment from the city and the county, because you don't have state participation, is really commendable to put public transit on the street. You know, at the end of the day, it's the city and the county that we work for. And like I say, we're a big contractor. We work with every neighborhood, every ward. How can we improve service? How can we move people? But the city and the county make a tremendous local commitment for public transit, and that's what makes it possible.
No further questions.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. If there are no other questions, I move that we pass Board Bill number 55 out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Second.
In previous role.
It's been moved and seconded that Board Bill number 55 come out of committee with a due pass recommendation. There's been a request for previous roll. Seeing no objection, Board Bill number 55 is passed. I move that we adopt Board Bill number 56.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we pass Board Bill number 56 out of committee with a due pass recommendation.
Previous role.
There's been a request for previous roll. Seeing no objection, Board Bill number 56 comes out of committee. Board Bill number 57. I move that we adopt Board Bill number 57 with a due pass recommendation.
Second and previous role.
It's been moved and seconded we adopt Board Bill number 57 with a due pass recommendation. There's been a request for previous roll. Seeing no objection, Board Bill number 57 comes out of committee. And then just a follow-up on the city's budget. E&A has not gotten to our budget yet.
Thank you all very much.
Okay.
One of your superior employees, Maureen Williams.
Yes, thank you very much. She works very hard, and I appreciate your comment. I will pass it along.
I don't,
We got a fiscal note first.
Thank you all very much.
Quick one.
where is Board Bill number 50 here? I don't have it.
I got 55, I got 56, I got 57. I can get Terrence. I can get Terrence to get it over here real quick.
No. Board Bill 50.
Here it is.
Okay.
It's the last one after this big one.
Oh, okay, wait a
It's
second.
on the
Yes,
back.
It's on the back. Here's the fiscal note, and it's
Oh,
on
it
the
flipped
back.
over.
Okay, hold on for a second.
Well, can I just make a suggestion? That we put somewhere on here, the board bill.
What
number it is on
Because sometimes it is, sometimes it
See where it is?
isn't. Okay.
It has it's on the back of the fiscal
Okay.
note.
All
It's on the
right.
back, yeah.
It's on the back of here. It's on the back of there. It's on the back.
No,
There we
Oh,
go.
slim
and I'm sorry.
There it is. I'm saving on paper.
Can you explain to me what Board Bill 50 is?
Oh, yes, no problem.
Thank you.
Yes, Board Bill 50 was a request from the Board of Public Service. They have been doing work on the Kingshighway Bridge. And there's been a lot of work going on between O'Connell's property, which is owned by Parker. Parker is the last name of the family. And McGrath is right next door. Apparently, when they've been putting this new shaw through, they discovered some property that the city owns that they have no real purpose for, that's been used by McGrath in the past. So this is basically just a quick claim deed, giving it back to McGrath. They've been using it. We have
Oh, mine's right.
no use for it. We have not been using it. We didn't even know it was our property apparently for a while. It's basically McGrath has been using it for a while. So I don't know how many years. They probably have a legal claim to actually the title. They've been using it so long, and something called adverse possession, which is a legal claim. So we're just turning it over to them through a quick claim deed because they're using it for a much better purpose than we are right now.
Right, and to put it in perspective, where 44 crosses Kingshighway, O'Connell's bar is there, and there's a street called Shaw Boulevard. Can't make a left as you're heading southbound on Kingshighway. So what we've done is we've gotten O'Connell's to give up part of their parking lot on the south side, and we've moved Shaw Boulevard 80 feet as part of the Kingshighway Bridge.
South, right.
South.
Yeah.
And so now you could actually make a left down there. O'Connell's is happy. All of those businesses have suffered for, just as my community has suffered for 2 years with that bridge closed. And so, and McGrath has never even complained. Everybody else down here has complained.
I move that we pass Board Bill number 50.
Now, second.
Did you pass recommendation?
It's been moved and seconded, we pass forward Bill number 50 out of committee with a do-pass recommendation. There's been a request for previous roll. Seeing no objection, Board Bill 50 comes out of committee. Now back to the budget. E&A has not taken up our budget request. They will be taking it up next Wednesday. We'll schedule a committee hearing for Thursday, just because we have to, by charter, I have to have the budget passed by June 31st. So
June
we're running out of time. Now, we didn't make any dollar-wise large changes, and they're still looking for the funding for the requests that we have, and hopefully they can come up with that. Also, so we will meet next Thursday. It'll be kind of a long day. We would, I'm going to go ahead and schedule the payroll tax bill for Thursday and the public safety sales tax bill for next Thursday. Because it's all part of the big picture, so it might be a little bit of a longer day. If it goes to noon, I'll have lunch delivered.
Okay.
You got to tell me what
Alderman.
type of pizza you like.
Okay. Alderman Conway. I
Thank you.
have one question.
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
sort of off topic. So what are they going to do with the old Shaw Boulevard?
It's actually going to stay. This is kind of a spur,
Oh,
and it will
okay.
line up with Shaw Boulevard on the hill.
Okay. all
So
right.
it will allow people to head eastward now.
Okay.
On the Shaw.
I was noticing that, and I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen with that? Okay.
Today is
Thank you.
Alderman Davis's
I'm
birthday.
sorry.
And happy
Why you telling
birthday,
me?
Alderwoman. I mean, when are you getting close to collecting Social Security?
Maybe, and maybe not.
You got a long way to go.
All right, I'm waiting for that day in my life.
May I make a recommendation
Yes,
about
ma'am.
Thursday and its longevity? You're gonna allow people to speak, right?
You want to be across the hall?
I'd like for it to be across the hall because I don't believe we'll be able to survive this room based on those bills.
My normal preferences, and the reason I like this room is when I got them squeezed in here, they're
They
not
wanna
quite
get
as
out.
long-winded, but will you make a note to move our meeting to
Yes.
across the street,
Yes.
across the hall?
Yes.
Are we adjourned?
Okay.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
You got 10 minutes left.